it's that curiosity, and I think is kind of the spark for coachability. Because I think the antithesis to that is when people are not coachable, it's because I think they've lost curiosity, right? They think that they've got it all, or they know it all, or the expectation like, oh, I should know it all. It's like, no, you shouldn't. I think for me, it's like the time I've been most frustrated is trying to help somebody go somewhere that they don't want to go. Right, trying to coach somebody that does not have any desire to be coached. They have no desire to get better. They have no desire. They've lost that curiosity. The conversation that we wanted to talk about today was about coachability and figuring out the different pieces of that. It was funny because I just got off a call less than an hour ago with a group of life coaches, health coaches, mindset coaches from different parts of the world and different parts of the United States. And then we have one gal join us from the UK. And it was interesting. It's interesting being part of that type of peer group because some have like large social media followings. Some, like myself, have zero basically social media following, and we all do things a little bit different, but it's interesting to hear what types of like coaches are out there, like health and fitness coaches, life coaches, business coaches, executive coaches. And so it just kind of got me thinking about, what type of coach does somebody need, and how do they know that they need a coach, and how do you know when somebody even wants to be coached in the first place? Yeah, no, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, sports growing up it was kind of different, right? Like when people go to play sports, it's because they want to, for the most part, right? I mean, sometimes kids get thrown in there and their dad is the coach and they hate it and whatever. But outside of that, how do you know when somebody actually wants? Yeah, how do you know when somebody actually wants to be coached? I mean, especially as you're jumping into coaching football with your kids. I'm sure you see some that care to be there and some that don't. And
Yeah, you certainly have, your kids that are there to just be part of the team, like traveling, maybe put on a jersey, so that on Fridays they can feel pretty good about themselves, which is I'm all about, man. If you want to be part of something cool, where, a bunch of people are pushing themselves um to reach a goal, uh, you know, in our case, the coach reiterates, if you want to win, a state title, it all starts, in your daily habits and what you're doing. So,
sure.
um, yeah. So I've been chatting with my oldest son. My oldest son has gone through, uh, um, like this really cool, I don't like transformation. I want to say this, like the Holy Spirit's got him, right? Like
Nice.
he's certainly prompting his heart to really change some things. And I think ultimately, right, if we're talking about coachability, I think the Lord is the ultimate coach, right? In my opinion. And I'm sure yours too, because we share similar values. Um, but we were talking the other day and we talked about like goals. We kind of really talked about like personal goals, like what's going on. And he's kind of a bit right currently right now he's injured. So I think there's a lot of reflection on his part, that when we're younger we think we're invincible, and you know and, and and it's not until you can't do a couple things that you realize that you're not, right? So I really had to help him, first of all, just comfort him and let him know, like, things are going to be okay. It's he was going through like a bit of like anxiety about, future, and like, yeah, like I said, I think he just felt his I want to say there's a sense of humility that like kind of stuck its way in.
Yeah.
Um, Not that my son is, prideful or anything, but um, we it was a chance for him to kind of slow down and like take stock in life and what he wanted to accomplish goal wise. And right now he's really big into football. He enjoys it. He enjoys what goes on with it and the camaraderie. But also now I'm in a position to where I can like watch and see like the team as a whole and how it functions. And I think we got really good coaches and uh but I think there is and it's really funny, like East Helena has this weird it's a small enough town to where like everybody knows everybody's business kind of deal, right? Like and you know that, you grew up here and um you know and it's like this weird culture where instead of like lifting people up, it's almost like this hater mentality
Mm.
that like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna I don't want to give you the credit where credit's due kind of deal. um and so like I had to so we chatted about like how we can change that, and he was just, all on board, but he also it's overwhelming, it's overwhelming to take on something that has been like that. Like his class in particular has been that way for a long time.
Like
And
like the backbiting and not necessarily like tearing people down, but not celebrating their wins or
uh I mean, yeah, yeah, I would say that, but also I think that's also it's also it's real when uh it's been like that, right? You have to mind your P's and Q's um when you want to share something with teammates. And um yeah, so anyways, like kind of I'm kind of all over the place with my thoughts because of how, I guess, how excited I am about just how my son, it feels like there's this shift in the way he thinks, right? Um he's a little more conscious about his actions and how he's modeling his actions. And I mean, it's just exciting, dude. It's exciting. And he's going to be 17 here next week. Um so I don't know. It's been really good. But coaching, right? Like he's wanting to be able to figure out how to lead his team and to be a good leader.
yeah.
And so a couple things that I kind of threw out at him was just like, doing a little extra, right?
Mm.
John Maxwell had a talk one time where it's, from ordinary to extraordinary. And I asked him, what's the difference? And after a lot of talking about it, and I go, make it really simple, son. It's just the extra, right? Just the extra time you spend into doing thing, the extra time that watch film, the extra time that you spent with your teammates, right? All those little extra things make your team extraordinary. And so from that, we talked about, getting a little extra, pass rush stuff, right? So like he's got a senior teammate that I think is a really good influence on him right now.
Nice.
He's really, he's really taken like a mentorship kind of role with my son in a way, like, and uh, so we did some pass rush moves, right? When nobody else is there, just my son can't do anything except watch and just hold a bag. Um, and but we invite it anyways, right? You do it anyways, like is right is what we talked about in one of the last podcasts. We do it anyways. So we're out there, and then next thing you know, we have two other people coming, right? And it just kind of builds from there, and it also gives me that little bit of extra time I can teach details to some of the kids and really just provide them that extra time and support that they need with not just football, but with what how they're doing in summer and connecting with them, right? And it allows me to model some of the leadership things that my son wants to see, right? Like we always ask that question, like, how do we do things? Sometimes it's okay to watch people do, and then you know and then figure it out from there, right? Watch what they say, how they say things to people, and how people react and respond to it, right? So I don't know, man. I like this it's just it's a really good time in life right now, for my son and my family, and that, like, sitting down and getting to talk like biblical things with my son and how curious he is right now. It's man, dude, like,
That's
God is
so
good.
cool.
Yeah, dude,
That's so
it's
cool.
awesome. It's awesome.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. So, anyways, I've been doing a lot of talking, man. You should. I don't know what something in there was talking about coachability or something, but
Yeah. No, it was the thing that I was thinking about is I think we hit on it a little bit before, but the idea that like Ty really wants to be coached right now. Like, and I think that's a big difference. I think there's so many people that need to be coached, but 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 there's only so even with that crew that you're working with, like how many are showing up to that little extra practice thing? 3, 4? I don't know. Something like that. Perfect.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, four. Yep.
Yeah. But but that core 4 are gonna be elite. You know what I mean? Like, and and I think it's partly also, like, creating a culture around that too. Like, I think about, like, elite teams that I've been on, and the ones that it's that became the norm. The norm was showing up extra, right? The norm was putting in the extra reps. That was the norm. That was not it's kind of funny. I was thinking last night. So, my son just he really wanted to do Civil Air Patrol, right, for the last couple of years. And so last night was the first night we went down there. It was interesting, right, because it's the whole Oregon Wing headquarters. And so we're in there and I'm looking at like the different things that Oregon won. And the last time they had trophies, if you will, was like the 1980s. I was like, oh, yeah, this has not been an elite squadron in a long time, right? And so, uh, probably like being a Cleveland Browns fan, like it's been a long time since since you were good. Um, but it was interesting just because I was thinking, I was like, yeah, but all of that hinges on leadership. And if there's just one or two or three kids that are like, hey, I want to be elite, I want that extra coaching and and the curiosity, like you're saying, like that Ty has right now, even in spiritual things, like it's that curiosity, I think is kind of the spark for coachability. Because I think the antithesis to that is when people are not coachable, it's because I think they've lost curiosity, right? They think that they've got it all, or they know it all, or the expectation like, oh, I should know it all. It's like, no, you shouldn't. You know, I joke all the time that the older I get, the less dogmatic I become. Right, the the less that I'm sure of in other things, and then I also tell people all the time that um, it's amazing the older I get, how much smarter my parents get, because I think that's part of it too. When, kids I thought I had it all figured out when I was 16. So I wouldn't expect other kids to be any different. Right. Um, but it's the interesting thing is so like in the business world, there's a lot of people that, man, there's so many companies that I look at and go to and I'm like, man, there's just a couple tweaks. Like if you would just be coachable, we could change a lot of things. And anytime there's a resistance to that within a team, it can spread, right? Meaning, because it's all about leadership, right? I mean, if you have somebody within an organization that is a leader, whether that's good or bad, right? They're influencing people either positively or negatively, right? But when they uh, if they're positive, if they're negatively influencing an organization and they're not curious and they think they have it all figured out, well, that you have a lot of really bad detrimental habits that come from that. It's like, no, I know what I'm doing. Like don't coach me. Like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. It's like, okay, all right. And so I think for me, it's like the time I've been most frustrated is trying to help somebody go somewhere that they don't want to go. Right? Trying to coach somebody that does not have any desire to be coached. They have no desire to get better. They have no desire. They've lost that curiosity. Uh, and I think it comes down to the growth thing, right? I mean, the whole theme of this podcast is about the choice, right? What they have no desire to be intentional with their actions. And so whatever accidental outcome they have, they're just like, well, I guess this is either good enough, and they've kind of resigned themselves to, well, this is as good as life is going to get. It's like, dude, you're 27. You got a lot of life left. And so you can still choose to either make some changes and be coached, or to not, and to go backwards. But I'm curious, like, who would you say are like key coaches in your life right now, or like key coaches that you've had in your life?
Yeah. It's funny how you brought up, like, who your coaches are, and making sure that, uh, I don't know if making sure is the right thing. Sometimes you're stuck with a coach,
Yeah.
and you have no say.
Yep.
I kind of I had some pretty good coaches in my lifetime, um, that that were good coaches. They were good in, like, I would say this, like, I didn't have one coach that was all around just the best, right? As when we're
Mm,
talking about just another person, they all had their flaws, and they all had their strengths, right? I had some coaches that were amazing at motivating, right? Inspiring you to do better. Um, that could see potential in you that maybe you didn't see. Like, I had coaches that were like that, but then they lacked, maybe teaching skill development better well, right? Like, and then I had the opposite, right? I had coaches that knew defenses by the book, and, like, they knew the X's and O's of the game, but didn't have the bridge to connect with you, to like interest you into why this is important, or, like,
mm.
right? Like, it was just, here's the X's and O's, and just, like, figure it out and perform. Um, I think, if I was to have, someone that I could point out to, I would honestly say, like, my dad was probably my best coach. Um, right? Because he encompassed all those things, for me. Was he perfect? No, but he practiced what he preached as well, practiced what he coached. I remember many times my dad was he's a very, like, common sense, very simplistic guy. Like, uh my dad would always tell me to be, just, I was somebody that had, I'm not a patient guy. I still struggle with patience. Um and my dad would always kind of, like, reiterate that when I was anxious, or, I wanted things done, when I was younger. And uh he'd always say that, just be patient, it'll be there, like, no need to get frustrated. And then, um and I would be like, yeah, okay, whatever, dad. And then I remember one night, when my my parents were they had, like, this, like, big disagreement, and to the point of, like, they were having high volume conversations with each other. And I happened to be, like, sleeping at the time. And this was when we were living in the Philippines. So I was, like, young, and I still remember this vividly. And my my parents, like, uh they found themselves in my room while I was sleeping. And in the Philippines, like, we had to dry our clothes. Like, we didn't have any washers or washing machines or dryers. So, like, we would string up, like, clotheslines in our room so that we could dry them. And uh my parents were, like, in this, like, disagreement with each other, and they turn the lights on, and here comes my dad walking in, and he's like doing laundry while my mom is like on his case about something, and I was just like, whoa, what the heck is going on? And and my mom was just at my dad, like I can't remember what specific the argument was, but then I heard my dad say, calm down, just relax, be patient. And while he's taking like individual pins off and like taking the laundry down and like gathering it on his arms, calm, cool, collected. And so like it was things like that that my dad modeled that made me want to follow, because I don't know if I could have done that if someone was yelling and like in my face about things, right? And then here's on top of that, like my mom came in the room maybe half hour later, so like sometime later, and she goes in and just like apologizes. And
Mm.
my mom doesn't do that. Like I told you before, Filipino culture is very different, like very matriarchal, like we like women are in charge here. And my mom came back in the room and she goes, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. And I'm like thinking in my head, what's going on? Okay. That's fine, mom. And she goes, your dad told me to come in here and tell you um that we shouldn't have done that, and I'm sorry. And I was just like, so, right? My dad didn't just teach me with his words like lessons about patience. And this is just one. I've seen many, and I'm not saying that my parents had a like a horrible marriage, but I I seen patience in action
Yeah.
with my dad, right? And that's why I say he's my favorite coach. He's my favorite coach of all time. Um, right? Don't steal, Raymond. Don't ever steal. Be an honest guy. Be trustworthy. Um, like more like lessons in life. My dad didn't just say, but he also did it, right? Like I remember went to a grocery store, and this was about like, don't take things that aren't yours, don't steal. And so on base, this was in Guam. uh we there's a thing called the Navy Exchange, right? And it's basically the Navy's version of Target or Walmart, right? And boy, it's busy all the time because all of the military go there, right? We have the Navy Exchange for the Target, and then we have Albertsons, what we called it the commissary, right? And it was just jam packed this day. So we had the park all the way down. Like there was no parking, right? It was such a big parking lot. It might as well have been like Disneyland, where like you have to have markers of there's the D parking lot. It's that big. And so we had the unfortunate day where we had to park all the way in the back, and then we got all the materials that we need. And then as we were rolling out, uh, and we loaded the car, my dad noticed that he had a paintbrush that he stuck in the back of his pocket.
Mm.
And my mom goes, and my dad, well, actually, my dad goes, oh, I forgot to pay for this. And my mom goes, that's fine. Like, it's fine. Like, it's fine. We'll do it next time.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad looking at me and going, no, I'm going to go walk all the way back and stand in line and brave the crowd. And my mom was hot, but
Yeah.
and like, you know what I mean? Like I don't like, as a parent now, like you don't know what your actions do, and your children are always watching, right? That was a long time ago, and it's still burned in my memory that my dad went all the way back for a $3 paintbrush.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, um, I think when you ask me again, like who's my favorite coach, and I would just have to say that my dad is. um, because uh, he also practiced what he coached to me. So yeah,
That's good. So I guess
shout
in
out
the
James Sebastian. There we
yeah,
go.
yeah, no kidding. So I'm curious in the same way then, like, uh, I mean, I'm sure you were a perfect kid throughout high school and stuff like that, so you probably never needed what were the times where your dad was trying to coach you on something and it didn't go well, you know? And it was kind of like not putting the screws down, but kind of, right? I mean, young men need discipline.
Gotcha.
Uh, so I'm sure there was times where there was friction there, and you're just like, "Nah, I'm not gonna do that." And
Oh yeah.
then now being a parent, like, what is the thing that you learned from that experience and how you're parenting?
Well, it's the same lesson that you just mentioned when you were chatting a little bit ago about like the older we get, the more we notice how right our parents were, and we uh I'm just thinking of like train up a child in the way that they should go, right? And when they get older, they won't depart from it. Like I haven't the path that my dad created is always there. And is there sometimes where I I may step out of line? Yeah, sure. But um I always know that the path is there, right? And I always gravitate towards it because because I trust my dad, and I trust what he's done for me, and what he's continuing to kind of help me out with. So like uh I man, I've taken those lessons and I have internalized them. I think that's some of the things too, right? Like there's some things that coaches, if if you have a sense of coachability and you want to be coached, not only do you know the X's and O's of life, but like there's things you start to internalize for yourself that just
Mm,
become like I tell my son this a lot, my oldest, and he's really got it ingrained now. Like there's the world is kind of a buffet, and you're gonna run into a lot of coaches, you're gonna run into a lot of techniques and all this other stuff, and it's just a buffet. Like take what you want and put it on your plate, and leave the rest if you don't want it. It's
mm,
okay.
yeah,
And so like I think that there's going to be some things that will go in one ear out the other, and then there's going to be the things that you're going to be coached on that are, again, you're going to internalize it, right? And it may one day become like a value for you, and you will have opportunities to pay it forward to you know the next person, right? The next kid, like in my case, the next kid I coach. So anyways,
yeah. So right, I mean, the context of sports, like we talked about the elite coach, kids that want to be coached versus not. But then when you're a school counselor and people are coming to you and
yep. Okay, see you soon.
thanks,
Sorry.
that's all good. Um, like I wonder how does that look with kids that just come to your office, right? I mean, because I'm sure there's kids that are sent to your office, right? And then they're probably sent for a reason. It's probably not because they're A students. Um, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you work through that with a kid that doesn't want to be coached?
Yeah, man. Um, yeah, school counseling, man, can be. Whew, it has its days for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, it's just like any job, but when there's jobs, there's um, positions in life where there's a lot of stake. I feel that there's with something, when you're involved in another person's life, and you are called to like speak into it, I man, I don't take that very lightly, and I think I think I don't want to get lost in the fact too that there's coachability and there's also the coach, like like what it takes. like, why the heck would you want to be a coach?
Fair question.
You know what I mean? I think uh there's that dynamic as well too, right? Because coaching isn't for everybody. We've all seen the, as I mentioned before, we no coaches is perfect, but when I that's when I see kids, when kids come to my office, whether they're sent or whether they seek support, my perspective is very coach like, right? Because I view life um, as a like a playing field, right? We when we are sidelined, we're not active, right? We're not doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. In cases of students, right? Do your math work. Follow simple instructions. Don't be, don't
Effective.
be a
Yeah.
jerk to your classmates. Be respectful to your teacher. Just like the basic things. And that's what I try to come back to. I really hold on to just fundamentals and common sense things, and I teach it not teach, and I coach it in a way that hopefully um, like motivates them to kind of get back to it and get back on the field.
Yeah. So you're way more like, if there's archetypes of coaches, you're more the motivator, like you're saying, versus the X's and O's guy.
Um, I, I would say, yes, motivation is, it's needed. I'm more of an encourager. I
Mm.
like encouragement better.
Yeah.
I think God's given me a good gift of encouragement. Um, and so I know that there's that bend in me, and I'm always, again, right? Like, why do I want to coach? Why do I want to be a school counselor? Because I'm an encourager.
Mm. Yeah. That's good.
So I'm gonna stay in that gifting that God has given me to whatever it is. Because coaching is multifaceted, right? Like, whether you're whether it is some motivation, whether you're unlocking some sort of potential in someone, or holding accountability and looking at progress, skill development, helping them persevere, right, like getting better in their performance. Like, there's a bunch of things that you can go into, but I like to anchor myself in my gift, which is encouragement, right? And I can encourage in all those subcategories of coaching, um, right, and access it that way. So, um, I'm an encourager. I encourage kids to dust dust yourself off. Here, let me help you. Okay, let me fix your collar, and let's get back out there, right? Let's get back on the field. You're
Nice.
capable of doing these things.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Hmm.
decision making is also good, right? It's a choice. I think a lot of times kids struggle. There's a lot of fools out there, right? There's a lot of foolish kids, which is, you know, biblically, that's what it is. There's a lot of foolishness bounded up in a young person's heart,
Yeah.
right? And I don't want to. Uh, I just want to like preface that foolish is being a fool is not some sort of like, you know, um, like mental incapacity. I feel that foolishness in a lot of kids these days is just a lack of knowing what's right and what's wrong and making those choices.
Hmm.
It's a lack of knowing what's good and what's bad.
Interesting.
And if you
So,
don't know, you're a fool. Like,
yeah. So, and why do you think that is? Is it just there's no standard? There's no. I might imagine obviously there's probably a lot of this that comes down to the parents, right? I mean, if you grow up in a household, because I saw this as a youth pastor, if you grow up in a household where your parents are strung out on whatever, it's like, yeah, that's gonna be a hard road to overcome. It's not overcomable. It's not overcomable, right? I mean, there's plenty of examples of people that they grew up in terrible situations and they made it through, right? Um, but it's harder, for sure it's harder. So I guess in that sense, because as a school counselor, like you can't, it was interesting. So on the coaching call today, one of the things there's uh, one of the gals that was talking, she had recently become a Christian, and she said that a lot of the things that she's incorporating into her coaching practice, and she's been doing it for 15 years or so, I guess, is just like starting with prayer. She's like, whether it's one on one or whether it's a group. And she said, and I don't even know if people are Christians or not. She's like, and I don't really care. She said, because the amazing thing is that by doing that, it shows a different like level of care that maybe, somebody's like, okay, yeah, but for whatever, but she's just like, so for whatever reason, it's like her whole coaching practices has changed pretty drastically that way. And there was a couple of the people that were chiming in and essentially saying the same thing. Like, yeah, if you just let the Holy Spirit, like, okay, what are we doing today? And you let, that divine guidance guide you right through that. Uh, it's different. I think you'd probably get fired if you said, hey, with a kid, hey, let's pray right now. Um, you know, maybe not, but I think that I think there's an element
I
of
don't
that.
care. To be honest with you, I don't.
Really? Yeah.
Because I do. I
Yeah.
do. I
Nice.
do pray with kids, absolutely. And the kid, you know what's funny? I won't even say it's funny. You know what's amazing about it? The kids want it. And I wholeheartedly agree with what this person said, right? It unlocks another level of care.
Mm, yeah. That's really cool. That's interesting.
It's amazing.
Um, yeah, no, that's awesome because I think that one thing that I see, in culture, like you're saying, like, how do we know what's right is and wrong? Because, like evil is being called good, good's being called evil. As silly as it sounds, like even just saying, okay, okay, well, prayer in school is apparently evil. It's like, no, actually, it's probably needed, you know. Uh, and so with all that, like cloudiness and people not knowing up or down or things like that, like how, helping navigate, what is a standard that we say, yes, this is right versus this is wrong, and who says, right? And because I think in this age of relative morality,
Mm.
um, or relative ethics, it's hard to determine that. It was interesting. This is years ago. I was talking to a guy when I was actually working in Helena, and we were having a conversation about it was, I don't know if the program exists, but it was through, it was called Youth Dynamics, and it was trying to bring in different people, whether they were pastors or counselors or teachers or whatever, and trying to build more or less like a cohesive, structured program for how can we do social norming programs for things so that it's showing kids like, hey, maybe vaping when you're 12 is not the best idea. And at the time, I don't know if it's still true, but at the time, Lewis and Clark County, Montana, had the highest per capita binge drinking rate in the nation. And so that was kind of the thing that we were trying to tackle. That was the solution. Long background, but the one of the guys I was working with, we essentially got into this conversation and debate around moral relativism versus, as we're going back and forth, he's like, well, just because, that's your worldview doesn't necessarily mean it's other people's worldview. I agree with that. I said, and I have a lot of friends from lots of different backgrounds and lots of different faiths and lots of worldviews. I said, however, there has to be some standard. So what is that standard? Because the standard in the United States in Western culture, like we've got the rule of law, the US Constitution, right? I mean, there's that, I guess. But even that gets really shady, right? And it gets really fuzzy. Anyway, we go back and forth, and then uh finally I looked at him. His name was Patrick. I was like, Patrick, I said, if what you're saying is accurate and true, that there is no like universal truth, there is no like standard that we should live our lives by, then what happened on September 2001, they were absolutely in the right to do that.
Mm.
And he was like, well, no, that was wrong. I said, says who? Because in their worldview, what they did was 100% right. So there has to be, right? There has to be a truth that is higher than our reasoning and our rationale and things. You know what I mean?
right.
And so I wonder, like, how do you incorporate or bring that back in, especially in like a school where there's so many questions and people are all confused about whatever, you know? Like, if we get anything, and living in Oregon, it's very different, right? It's a very different feeling, like culturally, meaning that if we can't get the fact that's like, yeah, there's let's just go with two genders, and then when everybody feels outside of that, I guess we can take it on a case by case basis, but we shouldn't normalize that, like that doesn't that's not the norm, that's not. And again, it kinda goes, well, who says? It's like, okay, well, if I feel that I'm this, then therefore that I'm that. It's like, okay, well, and then you got the extreme side, right? And then the pushback against that, it's like, well, F your feelings, right? It's like, no, okay, that's not healthy either. But I don't know, man. Like, what are you finding? Like, how do you navigate that? That seems like a hairy situation.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, if we could, bottle up, saying the right thing at the right time, thinking the right thing at the right time, like a pill that does that, man, it would be amazing. Um, but you make some really interesting points that um, I think pertains. Not pertains. I think is really important when you want to go into a coaching field, and really, coaching is it takes two. It takes more than one. Not just your coach, and then the people that you coach, right? Coach. I feel like coach. There's the noun for coach, right? This is a
Yeah.
coach, right? The TV show Coach. I don't know if you ever
Yeah.
seen that show before, but
No.
it was actually decent. It was
Was it
actually
good?
a decent show. Oh
All right.
man, like, you want to talk about um some things in the past that we should go to, right? Like there are some TV shows that you got, the things that we're talking about, like they talk about right and wrong. They talk about what's good and what's bad, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
I don't know how much we do that now because, like you said, a lot of things are very relative, right? That's not my truth. That's your truth. Like, okay, all right. Um, and then like what's amazing, right, is when you um have a nice pushback on things like that, that it like it boggles their mind. Like, whoa, I didn't even think about it. Yeah, that, like, right? Like, there has to be um an absolute, like, truth, right? That we follow, an absolute standard that we follow. Um and you're asking me, like, how do I do that um in the school environment? I mean, and also my coaching. I'm also in a coaching environment where it's connected to the school, right? Uh if I was going to go by the school standard of whatever it is, of whatever their truth is, right? It's again, it can be, it's whatever the state says or whatever the government says, and every state is different. We have 50 of them, for crying out loud, right? Plus
Yeah.
territories. But like, so that, what does that mean? Like, does that mean, and not only that, now we have counties, right? Like, everybody's gonna have their saying,
Then you've
right?
got your
It's like,
district within the county, right?
right, and then you're gonna
Yeah.
have like board members who are there, who, yeah, let's just say, if you have 7 board members, you have 7 board members who have their own relative truths or whatever they want to say. Like, so it can be very it, I that to me can feel very loose, and very like it uncomforting to me, and in some sense, like, almost chaotic.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that the world that we live in designed it that way. Like, it's designed that way. Um, uh, because the world is in confrontation with the absolute truth. And for me, it's my absolute truth is based on the word of God, right? Like, So if that's where I'm coming from, right? And I'm dealing with a kid, um, to me, God is love, right? And so I believe it's like in Peter somewhere where he talks about above all, right? Um, above all, like continue to show deep love for each other, right? For love covers a multitude of perspectives, a multitude of personal truths. You know what I mean? Like put whatever you want in there,
Yeah.
right? The fact that I love you and I want to make sure that you know you're making good choices, um, and having a good perspective based on the standard of love. You know what I mean? Like so, yeah. Take 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 from that what you want. But that is how I go about um, coaching. That's how I go about counseling. Is the basis of love because
Yeah.
God is love, perfect
That makes it
love.
obviously that makes a lot of sense because it goes back to I mean, because if somebody actually knows that you love them, right? So the corny phrase, but there's a lot of truth to it, right? Nobody knows cares how much you know till they know how much you care, right? You know, but there's so much truth to that, right? If people know that you actually love them, you actually care for them, then that's the thing that is trust, right? And if somebody believes that you have their best intention in mind as a coach, because you're right. I mean, I've had terrible coaches, but I've also had some really great coaches. And so the thing that you glean from terrible coaches is how to not be a terrible coach, right?
Right.
Um, and uh, I mean, there's things or like the do what I say, not what I do kind of thing. It's like, well, and I think that there's a lot of that in culture in general. So like in the business world, there's so many managers and bosses that are like, well, you have to do that. Yeah, because I said it's like, okay, well, yeah, but if you're not willing to do it, then I'm not saying that you do it. Like there's a time as you grow in a company, right? If you're the CEO of a company, yeah, it's not the best use of your time, but that does not mean that you're not willing to do it, right? That's a totally different thing. But when you're not willing to do it and you're telling other people to do it, then it becomes hypocritical and people are like, okay, well, screw this guy. So when teachers say, hey, you shouldn't drink, and then they're out partying on Friday night and everybody some kid sees him at the bar, like you just lost so much credibility and you have no idea. You know what I mean? Uh, and I don't think that people necessarily think that way. I don't know. Maybe they do, but I think that there's a lot of that. Like you're saying, like there's the coachee and the coacher. Like you say, like the noun, who's being coached, right? And then the person that is coaching. This is an interesting thought. I'd love to throw past you. So when I like I wrote about it in my book, and this is something I've been thinking about. I'd love to write another book on this, but the idea of there's three different things that you need to master as you grow in leadership, and I call it MCL, so mentor, coach, and lead. So the mentorship, and the best way I've ever heard it is that a mentor is somebody that's pouring the best of them inside of you.
Mm,
A coach is somebody that tries to draw the best of you out of you, right? They need
mm,
to kick your butt sometimes. And then a leader is somebody that's casting vision and saying, hey, this is where we're going. This is why we're going there. And this is what's going to happen when we get there, right? And so they're kind of setting vision. Um, so I'm sure there's lots of times where it's mentorship, like you're saying with in the football coaching arena. You're saying, okay, here's some very specific things that you need to learn, right? You're putting on the hat of the teacher and the mentor and saying, okay, here's a couple small tweaks that you need to make, right? And then there's sometimes where the coach, like the motivator, where you're just like, you need to just get up and suck it up and do it. Like you need to get up and do it. Or the motivator, like, I see greatness in you that you don't see in yourself. And so let me pull that out of you a little bit. I feel like I do a lot of that with companies. And I think kind of the thing we were talking about is perspective. And because I have a different perspective, I can see somebody and say, here's the couple tweaks you need to make. There's greatness inside of you. Let's go. Let's move that way. Um, and then I think that the last piece of, leadership, and we were talking about this on the boat when we were hanging out about you just casting that vision for the team. Like, man, you're the best D line in the conference.
right.
I see that. Right.
Yeah.
And so because I see that, because I can lead with vision, and because I can mentor, because I've got something I can pour inside of you, and I can coach and I can draw the best out of you, like that trifecta, if you will, in my mind is like that's what it takes to be a great leader. Like those are different skill sets. But I don't know.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed that part in your book too, the MCL. Um, I think if you can encompass that in a coach, like coach person wise, noun
Yeah.
coach,
Noun coach.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Like, man, uh, you're there, there's gonna be, um, there's gonna be a lot of evidence, that that's the kind of coach that somebody is, right? An MCL, like, because you need all of those as a coach. Um, noun coach. Uh, y- I um, I was thinking too, like, there's a like when I say things like that to like a D, like a yeah, the position coach that I'm helping coach, like the D line, right? Like, I don't I don't just throw it out there willy nilly. There's it's also a challenge too. There's a
Yeah.
challenge aspect to it,
Right.
right? Like prove me right, prove
Yeah.
me right.
Right. Right.
Uh, because I wholeheartedly believe we are the best. We're the best. We have the athletes to do it. We have the facilities, like whatever. Like we have the team to do it. Uh, now it's like you were talking about like casting that vision, right? uh and goals and dreams or whatever. I think I heard I think it was John Maxwell that said something about like dreams, goals, like things you want to accomplish. All those things are uphill, right?
Yeah. Right.
Right, like you have to work for it. The problem is a lot of our kids have downhill habits, right?
Yeah.
Like so a good coach, um like all three aspects. They have to have all those three aspects to be able to change those downhill habits to uphill uphill thoughts, uphill actions, right? So um uh and you have to have there's a lot of gosh man, there's a lot of patience in coaching, man, because it's right. Again, I go back to like being patient about things and wanting things to change because
Yeah.
uh, you know there's a lot of things when we do something that we don't see immediate changes, and we're a culture that loves to see those immediate changes right away. um which is what honestly, which is what motivation is. Like it's an immediate like like I like you motivate someone and they go do it, and it's like, yeah, this is awesome. um but are you going to be okay when you know you run the next practice and they don't show up?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
you have to be you have to be ready for those things as a coach, right? And and I think um that's going to take a lot of and I think that hits on a lot of the leadership parts of it
Hmm.
when we were talking about MCL, right? You still have to lead, no, right? You still have to run, you still run the thing, run it, and they will show up. Like you're setting the standard, right? And so for our team, the coach has like three core values, right? It's do right, be first class, and an attitude of gratitude, right? And so
That's good.
those three things should um like every choice and every decision that we make should be like those three things should be on the forefront of how we make those decisions, right? So like um I don't know, there's a lot of times like uh I'm still kind of in, this is my first year coaching, so and this coaching staff has been together for a couple years, and they've seen some seasons where they haven't won anything, right? So
Yeah.
hey buddy, all right son, I'll see you later. Okay, love you. And so they've seen seasons where they haven't won a game, right? um so uh there's been many huddles where like maybe maybe we can tweak it to where, let's let some of the seniors talk about their goals. Let's let them talk about, just really quick, just maybe just one senior a night, right? And just pick them out and say, what do you want to accomplish on your last year? This is we're on the
Yeah,
eve of the
that's good.
last year of your vigilante career. Like, what do you want to see? Them Have them cast a vision for everybody, right? So, because that's what we want, right? We want kids to come up in that program of, of doing things right and being first class and having an attitude of gratitude, and hopefully, when we have these kids who have gone through the program and now they're at the end of it, hopefully, right, you those three things are hit upon.